Dirt has all of the physical properties that go into soil. It's clay, it's sand, it's all of those things. Soil is the system. Soil is when you bring all of those physical components together and then you allow them the time and space and interaction with organic matter and humans and other animals to actually start building this biome that involves bacteria and fungi and all sorts of little critters that move around in it. That's when you get soil. Farmers are honorable people. Farmers do what we ask of them. If we want cheap food, that's what they will grow for us. If they want food that gives back to the soil, that's what farmers will grow. People who eat have extraordinary power and influence over how our food gets grown. And I think it's time we all assume that power.
I'm Ron Scher, and my connection to the Organic Farm School, I live here. This is our farm. I got involved in a project on Whidbey, and then my wife had cabins on Whidbey, and then we discovered this 30-acre parcel. It was pretty damaged. There were lots of old cars, and it had been very abused over time, but it did have this charming racetrack on it. Somebody had been raising horses here at one time, and we found the property really interesting and charming and started getting it cleaned up, and we decided to build a barn, and it's built like it should be here for another 100 years or more. We built the barn not knowing exactly what we were going to do with it. People always ask me, what's the barn for? And I said it will reveal itself. And it certainly has. Years ago, the Organic Farm School had been displaced. Judy Feldman came down and asked me about their moving here, and we welcomed them to our farm, and it's been a wonderful partnership.
We were at Greenbank Farm, a little bit farther north here on the island. Hardest place on the island to farm. Lowest, narrowest part of the island, but that was one of the attributes. If we could teach people to farm there, they would have the critical thinking skills to farm no matter where they landed. But there came a time when the ownership of that property decided they were looking for a change in management. And so we found ourselves without a home. And it took us much longer than we had hoped to find a new place. But when we found it, it was a more engaged community. It was working with property owners, landowners that understood what we were trying to do, embraced the concept of regenerative ag, and really wanted to leave a legacy that involved us and what we were doing.
When Judy came from the farm school and said, we'd like to move the farm school down here, I didn't know how to work with this group. They didn't have a home and they had some history, and here I was gonna commit to a lease. They don't pay any rent, so it's a free lease. I said several things to Judy. I said, one is before this lease goes into effect, you have to raise $100,000 to show me that you have the community support. And you can have a lease on the inside of the racetrack, about 8 acres. And she found volunteers and we fenced off the inside of the racetrack, which is the heart of the farm school. Now the farm school has grown and has pretty much taken over the rest of the property. And we figured out a way that they can be here for the foreseeable future.
We've had 3 near-death experiences as an organization, at least 3. So I always want to stress to people that thriving doesn't mean just all unicorns and glitter, right? Thriving means that no matter what the world tosses your way, you find your way to work through it, and that you rally the resources and the individuals in your community that actually help you get better through the challenges.
So after we give them a rinse, we'll kind of go through, and if there's any extra debris or weeds that made it in, we'll make sure to pull those off. And we just want to get them as clean as we can. Carrots can be a little tricky because the dirt tends to stick to them. So we sell produce to a variety of grocery stores, different restaurants, kind of just all over the island. People say they are extremely sweet and crunchy and have more flavor than the typical carrots you'd see in the store. And what's nice about these is these came out of the ground today and they'll be on the grocery shelves tonight. So it's really about as fresh as you can get, where your typical grocery store carrots are being stored for a long time and out of the ground for months before it actually reaches the shelves. There's not really a normal day here. Every day is very, very different, which is what makes it really exciting to be, I think, not only here, but just as a farmer in general. And upon hearing about this program was basically exactly what I was looking for. You know, small scale market gardening, how to make a living growing nutrient dense vegetables.
I came to OFS because I've done some farming before and I didn't really know exactly how to start a farm or what that even looked like. And we're all learning how to run a farm, and that's kind of the shared dream that we have, is to all have farms. And I think that the encouragement and support and belief in one another is really special. It's nice to work so hard at something and then be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor, the actual fruits of our labor together.
We really just throw the students right into it through this sharing of it is our farm, and they aren't going to learn how to manage or own or operate their own farm unless they have that full responsibility. The other ways it does is it really teaches them how important their community is, how all these other farmers in this team, they're a micro community and a large scale community, that they need to rely on these other people. They know if they can build their community and where they end up farming, how important that community is, that when they get there, they will build that community. And then you have so many more eaters who are willing to support other people in communities and support other communities as they move on.
The bottom line with regenerative ag is caring for the land and leaving it better than you found it. I've been working with farmers doing on-farm research for more than 30 years, and what I've discovered over the years is not to get in the way of progress. Farmers have work to do, they have a bottom line. We're a working farm for market. We do a lot with cover crops, using different cover crop species and varieties. Also, a lot of the experiments I do have to do with the use of alternative sources of fertility, specifically locally sourced, reclaimed nutrients that otherwise would go to waste.
But we're trying to basically produce as much organic matter in our fields out here as possible and really incorporate that back in for microorganisms and biology to feed on, to just really gain soil health here. You have to really incorporate a lot of diversity in, whether it's plant diversity, how you're working your soil, but also livestock and integrating livestock in with vegetables on small scale farming.
It's nice to have your own farm as a working laboratory. I can pretty much experiment with anything I want as long as it makes sense for the farm and for students learning. There's just so many possibilities.
The world of farming is changing faster with the climate and the predictability of it, faster than I think farmers can catch up right now. This is my third year here. Neither of our 3 springs have been the same. And that makes it really hard to crop plan. And it's really great for their education to see okay, all of this went down the tubes, now we got to make up for it somewhere. The opportunity of it is it's really giving them real world experience of how to learn how to pivot and pivot really fast and how to make really tough farm decisions.
This has been the longest, hottest, driest summer so far. We anticipate that next year it'll be a totally different version of those things. We've gone through some major challenges, and yet thriving has happened in each and every one of them. And I consider that a regenerative practice.
Something's cosmically and I want to see the world from where you're standing. Will you let me?
We have this outreach project we call Farm Friday, and from Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day weekend, we put out the word to the community to come and create a potluck. We provide food from the garden. And then Judy always offers those who wish a tour of the field. We want to get them out there and walk among the crops.
This place brings hundreds of people together every month from all over, visitors outside of Whidbey Island, people who have lived here their whole life. It just really is such a great place that connects people, but it also provides so much food for the community. To have some place that has such a big impact but is so small, I think is a great reason why we need more of these small farms that can really implement these little hubs of nutrient-dense foods and really kind of heal the people, the land, the community.
I think for the farm school to grow and be successful, it has to do a lot more than turn out 5 to 10 farmers a year. It needs to make a bigger impact and be a catalyst for other things. And that's the excitement of the farm school being a catalyst for the community, but it also is wonderful for the students and the farmers because they begin to understand and realize that they can't just do this without an involvement in bringing the whole community in.
When I was an actor, I just worked all the time and it was really hard to sustain a living. So I became a farmer.
I really, really love growing food. I really love giving people food. It's my favorite thing to do is to grow this food and to give it to people. The biggest thing that helps our students, I think, thrive here is the community that surrounds them that really wants to support the work that we're doing here and support our students.
What we're trying to do is be bigger and be more accessible for many other variety of people. You know, we become sort of the hub of the foods network within a certain mile range. But I think it would be really nice to make our missions farther reaching even than our own community on Whidbey.
Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for supporting the farm. Judy works really hard at this place. They all do, all the farmers and everybody. So support them as best as you can.
I'm Ryan Elting. I'm the Executive Director of the Whidbey Camano Land Trust. We are at Keystone Farm and Forest Preserve, which is the Land Trust's most expensive acquisition to date. We were able to protect this property in kind of an emergency situation, and we were able to turn around in 5 months and purchase this property, 226 acres, $9.1 million. It would have become 22 high-end waterfront homes and completely changed and taken away any opportunities for public access and agriculture. We wanted to have someone out here who could complement the Land Trust vision for this place. We'll be doing shoreline restoration and enhancement work, bluff top restoration, forest enhancement and restoration work. Having a farmer out here that could do regenerative agriculture, the kind of sustainable agriculture that we promote and want to make happen, that could complement the kinds of conservation work we're doing, was our dream. And it was not a big leap at all to find the Organic Farm School and invite them to fill that role. They were really the only right fit for this property. The Organic Farm School's under lease and is managing this 51 acres of farmland. So a lot of planning happening right now, a lot of learning about this property, and from the farm school side, learning about the soils and the water, the hydrology, how those are working together. The Land Trust is actively trying to preserve farmland for the future so that there is the opportunity for a viable, sustainable local food system here. We don't have many opportunities to really say this place will be managed in a regenerative way. So when we knew we could work with the Organic Farm School, that was just such a beautiful fit. The reason that this property is one of the oldest farms on Whidbey Island is because this was a prairie that was maintained and managed by the Lower Skagit tribe of Indians. There's the need to go out and find out really all of the folks who have an interest in historic use here to bring them into the discussion. Keystone is going to bring the public in direct contact with the work that the farm school is doing, and they're going to walk right down through this regenerative agricultural space that the farm school is maintaining. This will be a place where you're seeing that mesh with conservation and restoration work. I think it's going to open people's eyes.
When I think of regenerative, to me, it means feeding on itself and growing. So if you're talking in an educational environment, it means how can we grow? How can we continue to evolve? What did we learn this year? How can we incorporate that into our training? And how can we impart that training to our new students coming in next year? And continue to do that year after year after year. That's really important.
So here on the island, the way that the Organic Farm School collaborates sometimes is very structured, and most times is very informal. The collaboration comes from a sense of openness that we don't have everything we need here, that we have to rely on other people to bring in other elements that will do nothing but make this program richer. Nonprofit is a business model. For-profit is a business model. They're not mutually exclusive. It's like having a diversity of economic perspectives at the table. Isn't that as regenerative as having different soil organisms out there working together for benefit of the plants?
Whidbey is a remarkable place, and we're able to activate that kind of great energy that's here around the Land Trust and the Farm School and the Whidbey Institute. And all of them support each other, and it shows people the great advantage of supporting each other and having this community. And we're teaching people that the response to questions and invitations is yes, not no.
Farming is a never-ending journey of learning and gathering as much information as we can, because it's a constantly changing game, which is, I think, one thing that makes it so exciting. It's not as much sharing the vegetables, but also sharing this just community and trying to show people how wonderful this life can be if you want to be a part of this community.
Regenerative agriculture is about putting life into the soil, on top of the soil, and into the people who are on the soil. Regenerative ag is about returning our communities to a relationship with where their food is coming from. Returning us as humans to a sense that our existence doesn't have to be damaging to the source of our food.